Oh yeah, this creamer. This creamer is good. Hello friends, I am so excited for today's video because we're doing our first quarterly review of the year. This is going to be a Q1 review and I am so ready. I felt it inside me to do this review actually a couple of weeks ago. I'm just in a desperate need for a reset, and it's just so funny that I don't know, my internal clock is kind of aligning with these quarterly reviews. I don't know if it's intentional, if I force that upon myself, but I'm starting to notice that I'm looking forward to quarterly reviews every single time they approach, and that's a good thing. So I am not going to sit here and kind of live guide you, live in the quotations, but live guide you through the review because it does take me a while. I like to set the vibe. As you can see, I made myself a really good cup of coffee and I'm going to actually play some feel good music in the background while I do this. But after I do it, I'm going to come back and share with you all of the things that I've learned in my Q1, and I will also share with you just some journal prompts that I use for quarterly reviews, tips, and I will also give you a quick tour of my Notion because I'm also going to do a bit of refreshing and updating there as well. And maybe I'll show you my calendar as well if anything interesting happens there. But yeah, wish me luck. I hope this inspires you to get started with your quarterly review this weekend because I'm actually starting my quarterly review a little bit early so I can get it in time for you to check this video out and actually do your quarterly review on Sunday. I'll be going back to this quarterly review on Sunday because I have to help or be a support system for Ian when he does his first quarterly review ever. So I'm gonna be there with you as well on Sunday. But yeah, let's get into this. I'm so excited. Okay, I am back. I took just about exactly 1 hour to do my quarterly review, and oh my gosh, it was such a success. Before I get into the details of my quarterly review, I just wanted to quickly go through my list of things that I do whenever I have a quarterly review. So, first of all, your quarterly review should be on your calendar at the end of every 3 months. So, obviously, we're at the end of March, that's the third month in the year, and so it just goes onward from there. So, just make sure that that's on your calendar so you don't forget, you get notified that your quarterly review is coming up and you have dedicated time set out for that at the end of each quarter. That's exactly what I did. It was on my Google Calendar. I did that back in December and it just works for me that way. So I think that will definitely work for you as well. The next thing that I do on the day of my quarterly review is set the vibe. I try to make this as positive as possible because I want to look forward to this every single time a quarterly review comes up. We don't want to be kind of scared and anxious about a quarterly review, especially because we're going to be assessing ourselves. So try to make it as vibey as possible. Like I said in the beginning of this video, made myself a cup of coffee. It was delicious. It's done now. But I also put on a feel-good playlist. I usually like to listen to Paramore. I don't know. I just get into the vibe whenever I'm listening to Paramore, and anything else that would kind of make your environment safe, positive, and feel good. Okay, now into the nitty-gritty types of things. I firstly look at my yearly goals. So at the back of my journal here, I have a list of goals that I have for 2024, and I just looked at them and kind of assessed and reflected on how these goals are doing so far for the year. So I'll go through them with you so that you know exactly what I did during my quarterly review. But the first thing was to challenge myself when it comes to workouts, and we'll get into more of how I felt about that, but more or less I feel okay about that one. The next thing is to add money to my savings each month, which I did successfully. The next thing is to clear up my skin, which I feel like has been a huge success so far, and it's only the third month of the year. The next thing is to dedicate time to hobbies, which I have in parentheses, art, reading, and games, and you all probably know that I've done really well with that so far this year. The next thing is to focus on YouTube, and I feel like YouTube has been my best performing platform this entire year so far, and it has not been the case for any of the years that I've been on YouTube, and I feel like it's because I was really intentional about it this year. So major success there. The next thing on my list is to start a new kitchen project. This, once again, these are 2024 goals, so this is for the entire year and they're continuous throughout the year. But starting the new kitchen project, I did do research for this in the first quarter. So we are ready to go for summertime, which is when I hope to accomplish this goal. And then the last thing that I have on my 2024 goals list is to garden from seed to harvest. So obviously gardening season is just starting, so I haven't really done much with this one, but preparation was definitely a part of my quarter one, so I did touch upon that as well in my quarterly review. So looking through those yearly goals, I feel really, really positive about them because I touched pretty much all of them, whether it was through prep or actually completing things or actually actively working towards those things. I feel really, really good about my yearly goals, and I'm super glad that I kept them pretty low maintenance. And when I say low maintenance, I mean a lot of these things are not super strict. They ebb and flow throughout the year, so they're not something that I strictly need to be like, yes, I checked that off and that's that. It's more so of like, how do I feel about them as the months go on, if that makes sense. Okay, once you go through your yearly goals and you kind of reflect and see how you feel about them. By the way, if you want to look at your yearly goals and you're not too sure how you're reflecting on them right on the spot, you can go through your calendar, you can go through your planner and literally flip through the pages and see what you've done in the first 3 months that are related to your 2024 goals. So that's what I did. I not only reflected on them and how I personally felt about them in this moment, but I went through each month and I looked at my monthly reflection, which I have prompts for my monthly reflections, and I looked at how those pertained to my goals, if that makes sense. This is why I kind of do every single thing that I do in my planner and my monthly reflections and stuff like that, is because they're all intertwined and they all help me figure out or assess how I've been doing throughout the year. It makes things easier for me during quarterly review time, so I'm not kind of like, what did I do with my goals actually? I know exactly what I did because it's all in here. Okay, and that segues right into the next thing that I did, which once again, I went through my planner, and at the end of each month in my planner, I have a list of prompts that I answer. And once again, that helps me figure out what exactly I've been doing when it comes to working on my goals for the year. And so I'll just reiterate those prompts to you. I've talked about them on the channel before, but there are just 5 prompts. The first one is, what are my top 3 accomplishments for that given month? The second thing is, how do I feel regarding my long-term goals? So you can see the direct correlation there. Number 3 is my focus for the following month. Number 4 is my upcoming challenges that I anticipate for the following month. And then the 5th one is, how do I overcome those challenges as I head into the following month? So all of these, while they might seem very specific to the month, and they are inevitably helping me reach my goals for the entire year. So that's why I looked at that in my quarterly review. And then the next thing that I did is go into my Notion, and I will take you to my Notion right now so you can do a little bit of a tour there, because I did some cleaning up, I did some rearranging, and there's a lot in there. So let's get into that. All right, y'all. So I'm going to give you a quick tour of my Notion, the entire thing, but I'm not going to go into every single board because that would take forever. But I just wanted to show you the big things that have to do with the quarterly review, of course. So if you remember from some past videos, you may have seen this section right here. It would say 2024 Q1 master to-do list, but what I did was erase everything. And the reason why I erased everything is because I completed everything that was on this master to-do list. So success for me there, but I now have updated it with a Q2 master to-do list. So these are the things that just popped up in my head as I was going through my quarterly review, and I'm totally okay with sharing them with you. I think I've actually talked about a few of them in the video, so none of these should come as a surprise. But yeah, these are just some things that popped up, and this list will get smaller or larger as the quarter goes on because it's a master to-do list. Things are just gonna pop on here when it pops into my brain, which is very, very helpful for my brain, by the way. But yeah, that's just one big change that I have in here. And as you can see, I changed up my Notion to look very springy. So I don't know, I just like to do that for each season. It makes me happy, so I do that. And I also changed up this space over here. What I used to have in the past was a daily, a personal, and a work category. And I used to take these and, categorize them. But now I just have them all in one space. I just feel like it's much more effective for me. So I don't know, I like how it looks. It looks much more clean, so I like it. But as you can see, I have a bunch of different things, and if you hover to the side, you can actually open this up and you can see the same things over here that are over here. So it's just a preference as to how you want to look at your Notion board. So yeah, let's go into each one. This one is new and it's related to my quarterly review because I am working on a spring project, which has to do with like, I don't know, organization in my bedroom. And so a lot of that has to do with our clothing. So I made this capsule wardrobe board so that I can keep track of the actual pieces of clothing that I have and not get things that I don't need or not get repetitive things. As you can see, I have like multiple types of jeans and I don't want to get the same kind of jeans twice and mess up. So this is just a good way for me to keep track of that type of stuff. And as you can see, I have an inspo board here, which links to a Pinterest board. So that's just for that particular project. And speaking of projects, I have my house projects board here, now very, very clean. It's much more clean than what it used to be. It was very messy. It was back when I didn't know how to use these types of grids on Notion. So now that I know how to use them really well, it looks a lot cleaner. So these are the 4 main projects I'm going to be working on in 2024. And as you can see, this one, the same one that I was talking about when it comes to capsule wardrobes, is happening in Q2. It's going to be, it has a deadline for May 31st. So there's that. And the next thing is the game tracker. So focusing on, I don't know why that sounded weird to me, but focusing on things that bring me joy, such as hobbies, is a big thing for me throughout the entire year. And so I just want to make sure that I'm keeping track of my little game tracker here. It's nothing too serious, but I just like to look at this and make sure that I am working sounds like a very intensive word, but I'm basically being mindful about the games that I'm playing because this is the one area where I will neglect really, really badly. I don't know why. I think it's because Ian plays on his Steam Deck and I want to use his Steam Deck as well, so I just let him play and I don't really focus on it. But anyway, I have this here so that I know what games I'm playing and make sure that I am completing them. So there's that. My wish list is literally a wish list. That's just, you know, things that I have noted for whenever I have gifts. So that has nothing to do with the quarterly review. My plant database does though, because we are now heading into gardening season. And I don't think I'm going to be using that platform that I talked about in my gardening video. So I think I'm going to stick with this one. And these are all of the plants that I want to plant in my garden. So that's all there, including the native trees, which I've talked about in this video. My Slow Morning Diaries hub is literally a hub, so it's got everything in here to general stuff about creating content for Slow Morning Diaries, but also for each individual social platform that I have, and I have plenty of them, so I'm not going to jump into each of these, but for each one, I have this quarterly goals section and then strategy and content research. So I spent a huge chunk of my quarterly review today going into these, adding in numbers, and then adding in insights that I learned in quarter one and what I'm going to be doing moving forward, all in here. And then I also clean this space up because usually I write my captions, I write my stories and my broadcast, all of those things I write in here, and then I copy it and paste it when it's ready for me to post. So I just cleaned out everything from quarter one so that I can start fresh. And it felt so good to do that because it was an utter mess in all of these platforms. So that's essentially what all of these platform pages look like. They look like this. And then the last thing is Live Her Alone podcast. I cleaned this up as well. If you have ever seen any of my Notion videos in the past, you'll know that this board had like tons of pictures across it and so many of these little pages. And so I just deleted the pages that we really were not using month over month. And me and Ian, Ian is my co-host of the podcast, if you did not know, but we have monthly check-ins for the podcast and we go through each of these pages together. And I've noticed that there were a good handful of pages that we just never did anything with. So I deleted those. I kept the ones that were important to me and I added one new one that we will be discussing in our upcoming monthly check-in. So that's what this looks like now. And I also put in this general weekly to-do list, which is very, very helpful for me when it comes to the really mundane logistical things that I have to do to post an episode every week. So that's just there for me. And that's pretty much what my Notion board looks like. Lots of stuff in here, and I went through it really, really quickly because I didn't want this video to be 5 hours long, but I hope this gives you a good insight into how I structure my Notion and how I take things from my quarters and plop it into here and use it on a more, I don't know, practical daily, weekly, monthly workflow, if that makes sense. I hope that made sense. Every time I do a Notion tour, I feel like I'm moving at the fastest pace and I'm not making any sense, but I'm sure I am because you love these, so thank you for that. But let's get back into the video. Okay, I hope you liked that little tour. I am very, very happy with the way that my Notion looks right now. It's very clean. I decluttered so much, and that decluttering not only feels good physically, like looking at my Notion, but also in my head. I just know that everything is on a clean slate, and I didn't have to wait till the end of the year to have to do that. So I didn't have to hold on to all of those things for 12 months. I can do that every 3 months, and it just feels so good. It feels so liberating in a sense, and it really helps with burnout, I think, because for me, I hold on to every single little thought constantly. So for me to be able to wipe it clean and start fresh, my brain is also feeling that as well, and it just feels good, at least for me. I don't know, I'm a big fan of starting fresh, having a clean slate. Otherwise, I lose my mind. But anyway, I hope you liked that little Notion tour, and I'm going to end this off by sharing some prompts with you so that you can literally use the prompts and write the answers to those prompts in your journal or wherever it is that you want to answer them. Maybe if you really, really don't want to write them down, although I do recommend you do that, you can just reflect on them. So the first prompt is, what is your word for Q1? And I will actually open up my journal where I wrote these answers down so that I can share them with you. Oh my gosh, I didn't write my word for Q1. Whoops. I will say progressive. I don't know if I'm using the word correctly there, but I feel like I did so much in just the first 3 months of 2024, and I made progress on so many things all at the same time in a way that wasn't too overwhelming. So I'll go with that word. Okay, the second prompt is your wins for Q1. This can be as big or as little, as specific or as vague as you want, so have at it. But what I wrote is that I had some work wins. I won't say it publicly, but I had some work wins in my 9 to 5. I also feel like I did really, really well when it comes to my YouTube, and that's exactly what I wanted to do, and I want to continue doing this year. Another thing is that I dedicated a lot of time to hobbies. In my journal, I have things written out where I knew exactly what weeks I spent so much time on reading, playing video games, doing art, my creative retreat, of course, things like that. So I was really proud that I dedicated a lot of time to that. I stuck to my goals. As I mentioned, in my 2024 goals, I touched every single one of them, all in the first 3 months. And I know that sounds ambitious, but not all of them were touched in a very intensive way. Some were just like preparing for the remainder of the year, but I still touched all of them, and I feel really proud of that. And the last win that I have is that I cleared up my skin. Y'all, my skin is looking so, so good. Blessed for my doctor/dermatologist. She's just incredible, and my skin has not looked this clear in well over a year. So I'm really, really happy about that. The next prompt is setbacks. So acknowledging that you may have had setbacks in the quarter is absolutely fine. And it's actually really encouraged because this is how you formulate your lessons learned to move forward on into Q2. So my setbacks are, I lost focus on some of my social media platforms such as Instagram, TikTok, a little bit of Lemonade, even though I wasn't really prioritizing Lemonade, and a little bit of Threads, not really. I feel like I did pretty well with Threads, but I think what I mean by lost focus is that I kind of forgot about it some weeks and I didn't really care. And maybe that's a good thing, but I did mention it as a setback because I do have intentional goals for all of these platforms. And so I don't know, I just felt like I needed to note that so that I continue to be more intentional about it in my next quarter. The next setback is that I did not research tree planting very well. I finally got to researching the trees right at the end of this quarter. You may have seen that in a previous video where I kept pushing it forward over and over and over again. And when I finally did the research for it, I realized that you're not supposed to plant like large trees until the fall time. And obviously we're nowhere near the fall time, and I thought that I was supposed to be planting these right before the spring. So I definitely miscalculated there, and so I put that as a setback, but that's okay. We'll just plant the trees in the fall. And the last setback that I have is that I could have challenged myself more when it came to workouts. I feel like I was very consistent with my workouts and my body movement this quarter, but I didn't challenge myself. I didn't really go above and beyond, and I really want to do that. So I think what I want to do for next quarter is actually try to achieve a 5-3-30, which is an alternative to 12-3-30, or am I saying it wrong? I think it's 12-30. It's one of those numbers, but essentially you walk on the treadmill at 3 miles an hour for 30 minutes at a 12 incline. And I know that I won't be able to get to a 12 incline by the end of quarter 2. So I'm going to go for a goal of a 5 incline, and we'll see how that goes. But that's where I'm taking that setback and moving it forward into quarter 2. The next prompt is lessons learned. So I have one big lesson, and I actually talked about this earlier this week in my weekly newsletter, but I really need to account for unexpected life things or projects that pop up along the way, because I feel like I have these set goals and everything is very set in place, right? As you can see, it's super structured, but I don't account for things that will pop up, inevitably pop up, and that always happens. That's just the way that life goes. And so I just need to account for that going forward and make extra time and extra space for those inevitable things, so that by the end of the quarter, I am not exhausted, I'm not burnt out, and I'm not overwhelmed with all of these things that I didn't anticipate or plan for. So making space, extra space for things that will pop up. And I think that's going to help me a lot when it comes to coming near the end of a quarter and feeling really overwhelmed and wanting to just start from scratch, which is exactly how I felt coming down to the end of this quarter. The next prompt is moving forward wants. So what do I want moving forward? What have I gathered from my quarterly review here that I want to take and progress with in quarter 2? So what I have is better balance. So once again, this is directly related to my lessons learned. I want to have a better balance of all of the things that I'm working on. Although I did work on a lot of things and I'm really proud of that, I want to have a better balance of it so that come the end of quarter 2, I'm not feeling overwhelmed. And then another thing that I really want to do, aside from really specific stuff that have to do with my 2024 goals, is expressing more gratitude and positivity. I know we can't be positive 100% of the time, and I feel like I definitely slacked in that in the first quarter of the year. Yeah, I just want to express more gratitude, which will inevitably feed into my positivity and the way that I look at certain things. And hopefully I can not err to the side of toxicity when it comes to really keeping firm with my boundaries, because you can keep really firm with your boundaries, but there's a level that you can cross and become a little bit too aggressive when it comes to it. So I just want to make sure that I'm not doing that. And then the last prompt is just to give a rating for your quarterly review. If you feel comfortable doing that, I definitely did, even if it's not the best. But for me, this quarter, I give it a 9.5 out of 10. I am so proud and overall happy with how my first quarter went in 2024. Probably the most consistent and positive quarters that I've had in a really long time, and I'm just really proud of that. I put in a lot of work to have a good quarter 1, so I just wanted to acknowledge that and celebrate that. So definitely do that for yourself as well. Even if you don't have a 9.5 out of 10 quarter 1, I feel like that's not super realistic, to be honest. So if you have a lower rating than me, I think that's absolutely fine and kind of great, because it gives you some more room and more space to make quarter 2 even better. And I'm excited for you to be able to have that. But that is all for this video. I hope it was interesting. I hope it was helpful. And I hope you really are encouraged to do a quarterly review this year. Like I said, I did this early so that you have time to kind of watch this video and get prepped and excited for your quarterly review, which should happen at the end of the month, which is Sunday. So I hope you have a good quarterly review. Let me know in the comments how it goes, what your rating is, if you feel comfy. But best of luck. I'm excited to hear about it, and I will talk to you in next week's video.